Hello everyone, my name is Loretta June Whitmore, and I am 81 years old. People used to say I had the brightest eyes in Marigold County, Georgia. Back when I was young and full of fire, when I wore my hair in victory rolls and worked the lunch counter at Odell's Diner. That was before I got married, before the war took Harold, and before life handed me the only gift that ever really mattered. My daughter, Delaney. I held Delaney's hand the moment she entered this world. In a drafty little room at St. Mercy Hospital. Her fingers were like soft pink twigs, curling around mine, already trusting me with everything. I remember whispering through the tears and sweat, "I'll never let you go, baby. Never." And I didn't. For 6 decades I showed up. At dance recitals. At midnight when she cried after breakups. At parent-teacher conferences, bake sales, graduations. Even when she moved 2 states away, I mailed her handwritten letters every week and sent birthday packages with handmade scarves and lemon cookies she used to beg for when she was little. She stopped writing back somewhere around her 40s. Said she was too busy. Said the kids had soccer and the job was demanding. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. But last spring when the diagnosis came, I knew time was about to run out. Lung cancer. Stage 4. I never smoked a day in my life, but I guess life doesn't ask for fairness. I called Delaney. Twice. Left a message that said, "Sweetheart, it's your mama. I just love to hear your voice. Nothing urgent, just miss you." She didn't call back. Now I lie in a hospice bed in a small room that smells like bleach and boiled peas. My hands are frail now. Skin like crepe paper. I used to hold Delaney's tiny hand to my cheek when she had nightmares. But when my time came, she didn't hold mine. She didn't even knock on the door. The nurse, a kind girl named Emily, sits with me when she can. She brings me applesauce and plays gospel hymns from a Bluetooth speaker. But it's not the same. Not the same as your child looking into your eyes and saying, "I'm here, Mama. I love you." I wanted to go peacefully. I prayed for it. But now I feel something else inside me. Not hate, not even anger, but resolve. If Delaney thinks I'll leave this world quietly, she's mistaken. I have a voice. And before I go, I will use it. Because no one gets to rewrite the story of my love, my sacrifices, my pain. Not even my daughter. They say you always remember the first time your heart cracks, really cracks. For me, it wasn't the day Harold died. It wasn't even the day the doctor whispered stage 4 in a voice that sounded like the last breath of a candle. It was the day Delaney didn't come home for Thanksgiving. She was 32 then, married to a dentist named Vince who made a lot of money, but never once looked me in the eyes for longer than a second. She had just given birth to their first child, Eli, 2 months prior. I offered to drive up. Told her I'd sleep on the couch, wouldn't be a bother. But she said, "It's just a bit too much right now, Mama. We're trying to find a rhythm." So I sat in my kitchen that year, folding napkins with gold leaf prints and baking my cornbread dressing for a table that never got filled. I left her a plate in the fridge, just in case she changed her mind and surprised me. She never did. That was the first time. But not the last. After that, holidays turned into texts. Then texts turned into nothing. Every once in a while, I'd get a Christmas card with a photo of the kids in matching sweaters, everyone smiling except for her. Her smile started to disappear sometime around her 40s, like the light inside her got tired. And I used to think maybe she was just overwhelmed. But deep down I began to wonder, had I done something wrong? Was I too much? Too clingy? Too poor for her now that she lived in those big suburban homes with the 4-car garage and the automatic sprinkler system? I'd rock on my porch swing, watching the mailbox like a widow watching the sea. A letter. A card. Anything with her handwriting on it. I kept every birthday card she ever sent me in a little wooden box under my bed. But that box had collected more dust than memories in the past 10 years. I never told her how much I needed her. How lonely it felt to outlive your husband, your siblings, your friends. And then slowly, quietly, your own child's affection. But pride is a funny thing. You keep swallowing it until one day you choke. Back at the hospice, Emily brought in an envelope this morning. My heart nearly jumped. Was it her? No return address. I opened it with trembling fingers, praying. It was a hospital brochure. One of those generic pamphlets that says, "End-of-life care options for seniors." I stared at it for a long time. Was this her way of saying goodbye without saying goodbye? A cold printed piece of paper. No note, no love, Delaney. Just a corporate reminder that people like me are expected to disappear. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. I had spent a lifetime giving and giving and giving. But now I had one thing left to give, my story. And it wouldn't be tucked into a dusty shoebox or buried beneath politeness. It would rise. Not for revenge, but for truth. For me. She may not have held my hand in the end, but she would hear my voice whether she liked it or not. The journal was tucked away in the bottom drawer of my nightstand, wrapped in a scarf Delaney made for me when she was 12. Purple yarn, uneven stitches, still carrying the faint smell of vanilla and childhood. I hadn't opened the journal in over a decade. It wasn't a fancy one. Just a battered composition notebook with a torn corner and coffee stains on the cover. But inside, that was my whole heart. Every page was a piece of my life, my truth. I started writing in it after Delaney left for college. I never meant for anyone to read it. It was my private space to say the things I didn't have the courage to speak aloud. The fears. The hurts. The moments I wished I could freeze and live in forever. I opened it now, my hands shaking more from the weight of memory than from weakness. May 12, 1984. Delaney called tonight. She said she missed home. She cried and told me she failed her chemistry midterm. I told her I'd be proud even if she flunked out. She laughed. I'd give anything to hear that laugh again. I flipped ahead. October 9, 1991. She didn't come home for her birthday this year, said Vince's parents through a dinner. I sent a cake in the mail. Came back. Wrong address. And then, July 3, 2005. She told me she didn't have time to talk. Said the kids were screaming and the house was a mess. I said I understood. I didn't. But I said it anyway. Because I'm her mama, and I'd rather hurt in silence than make her feel guilty. The tears came then. Soft, silent. I let them fall freely now. No one was watching. I looked around the sterile room with its pale blue walls, the faint hum of a heart monitor in the distance. Not mine, someone else's. I didn't want to die here, surrounded by strangers and the scent of antiseptic. But more than that, I didn't want to disappear with all this love still trapped inside me. That's when I knew what I had to do. I pressed the call button. When Emily walked in, I asked her for a pen and a new notebook. I want to write something, I said, steadying my voice. Something my daughter needs to know. Emily's eyes softened. She nodded. It took me the better part of the day, but I copied every journal entry, edited, smoothed out, framed like a letter. A memoir. Not of bitterness, but of love that had nowhere to go. And when I was done, I placed it in a padded envelope and wrote in careful script. To Delaney. When you're ready to know the whole truth. I asked Emily to mail it. Not today. Not tomorrow. But one day. When the time is right. Because maybe she doesn't need to hear from me now. But one day when the silence feels too heavy, she'll open that envelope. And she'll learn what I never stopped being. Her mother. It was raining the day he came. A soft southern drizzle, the kind that soaks your bones without making a sound. I had just finished my mashed potatoes and apple juice when I heard the knock at the hospice door. Not the main entrance but my door. Room 108. The room that hadn't seen a visitor in 3 long years. Emily was out for her break, and I thought maybe it was a nurse bringing extra blankets. But it wasn't. He was tall, maybe 25, with shoulders like a farm boy and eyes full of something I couldn't name. Not pity. Something warmer. He stepped inside slowly, holding a bouquet of daisies wrapped in plain brown paper. Are you Mrs. Loretta Whitmore? He asked. I blinked. My voice didn't come right away. Yes. He smiled, soft and nervous. I'm sorry. This might sound strange, but my name's Tyler. Tyler Hammond. I'm your grandson. First, I thought he'd made a mistake. My grandson? I only knew Eli and Tess, Delaney's children. I hadn't seen them since Eli was in diapers. But Tyler? The name hit something deep in my ribs. I whispered. I don't understand. He sat down gently in the chair beside my bed, the one that stayed empty every birthday and Mother's Day. My mom is Delaney, he said. But I'm not from Vince. I'm her son from before she met him. That knocked the air clean out of me. I was adopted, he went on. But I found her a few years ago through an agency. She didn't want contact, but I kept watching from a distance. Then, I found something. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a photocopy. My handwriting, clear as day. An old journal page. One I didn't even remember writing. June 19th, 1990. Delaney told me she's pregnant. She's only 19. I told her we'd get through it. That she wasn't alone. I would help raise the baby if she let me. But she cried and cried. Said she couldn't keep him. Said she was ashamed. My heart broke 1,000 times that night. I never held that baby. But I loved him the second I knew he existed. I stared at it, my fingers trembling. My words, echoing back to me from decades ago. The pain still raw. Still alive. She kept it, he whispered. I guess she read it and saved it. I don't know why, but she did. And I found it in a box she left at Goodwill by mistake. I closed my eyes. So many pieces finally clicking into place. Why are you here? I asked, my voice cracking. He looked at me with something I hadn't felt in years. Belonging. I wanted to meet the one person who loved me before I even existed. And in that moment something in my chest, something that had been frozen solid for so long, melted. Tyler stayed for 3 hours that day. We talked about everything. About his life. About mine. About the parts of Delaney she probably never let anyone see. And when he stood to leave, he hesitated. Then took my hand. Warm. Firm. Gentle. I'll be back, he said. You won't die alone, Mrs. Whitmore. No, I said, tears falling freely now. Call me Grandma. The attic of my old farmhouse was always dusty, cramped, and filled with the forgotten whispers of a life lived in full color. After Harold passed, I couldn't bring myself to go up there much. But a week after Tyler's visit, I asked my neighbor's grandson Jesse to take me back. Just for an afternoon. He lifted me carefully into the truck like I was made of glass, and we drove the 15 minutes to the house I hadn't stepped foot in for nearly 5 years. My bones ached as I walked up the front porch, and I half expected the wind to knock the door open and reveal nothing but cobwebs. But the moment I walked in, it was like the house exhaled, like it remembered me. Same faded wallpaper. Same creaky floorboard by the stove. Same light switch Delaney used to be too short to reach. And in that attic, in a corner under a sheet, was the box. It wasn't labeled, just taped with old yellowing masking tape. But I knew. I knew by the way it felt in my hands, the way my fingers hesitated at the edges. I sat on the floor and opened it. Inside were bits and pieces Delaney had hidden away. Pieces of herself, pieces of me. A lock of baby hair wrapped in tissue paper. A pink hospital bracelet with Baby Girl Whitmore, printed faintly on the tag. Mother's Day card she made me in crayon. One with a stick figure and the words "Me plus Mama forever." But tucked at the bottom, underneath an old sweater, was something that stopped my breath. A sealed letter. Addressed to me. Dated 15 years ago. My hands trembled as I opened it. Dear Mama, I don't know if I'll ever have the courage to send this. Maybe by the time you read it, I'll be braver. But I needed to write it anyway. I'm angry all the time. Not at you, but at myself. For feeling like I failed you. For putting distance where there should have been closeness. I don't know how to fix what I've broken. And sometimes I tell myself it's easier to stay away than to face how badly I've hurt you. But I think about you every day. I see your face when I brush my daughter's hair. I hear your voice when I sing lullabies I swore I forgot. And I still reach for the phone when life feels too heavy. Old habits, I guess. I hope you forgive me one day. I hope you know I never stopped loving you. Even when I couldn't show it. Love. Delaney. I folded the letter with tears streaming down my face. 15 years. She wanted to come back. She just didn't know how. And neither did I. But now. Maybe there was a way. Back in the truck, I held the box to my chest like it was a newborn again. Jesse glanced at me and asked if I was okay. No, I said honestly. But I think I'm finally ready to be. That night I called Tyler. There's something I want to give your mother, I told him. But I can't send it by mail. He understood. And he made me a promise. She'll hear you, Grandma, he said. Even if she doesn't say a word. I hadn't seen Delaney's face in nearly 16 years. Not in person. Sometimes I saw glimpses of her on local TV. Once during a school board meeting when she spoke on behalf of her daughter's curriculum. Another time in a charity newsletter, standing next to a man I didn't recognize anymore. But me and her face to face? Not since the argument. Not since I begged her to stay, and she walked out without looking back. So when Tyler wheeled me down the hallway of the small-town community center where Delaney volunteered, my heart raced like it hadn't in years. "She's here," he whispered. I nodded, gripping the cardboard box with my trembling fingers. Inside it, the letter she wrote me 15 years ago, the baby hair, the hospital bracelet, and a letter I wrote for her last night. My goodbye. My apology. My truth. We waited in a side room off the main hallway. One of those generic rooms with beige walls and a plastic clock that ticked too loudly. And then the door opened. She stepped in slowly, her eyes guarded. Her lips pursed like they weren't sure if they should smile or tremble. She looked older. Worn. Tired in a way I hadn't seen since she was a teenager and cried on my kitchen floor after her first heartbreak. But more than anything, she looked afraid. "Hi, Mama," she said, barely above a whisper. I couldn't speak. I tried, but the words just knotted in my throat. So instead, I opened the box and slid it toward her. First, she didn't move. Then slowly she reached in. The baby hair. The bracelet. Her childhood drawings. Her letter. When her eyes landed on that letter, her own handwriting, she froze. Then looked at me. For the first time in years, she truly looked at me. "Mama, where did you get this?" "You wrote it," I whispered. "You just never sent it." She pressed it to her chest and sat down beside me, knees trembling. I was scared," she said, voice breaking. "I didn't know how to fix things. I thought I'd disappoint you again if I came back." "You couldn't disappoint me more than by staying away," I said gently. "I didn't need perfect. I just needed you." She sobbed then, ugly gasping sobs. I hadn't heard her cry like that since she was a girl. She buried her face in her hands and repeated over and over, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And all I could do was reach for her hand, the same hand I held when she was born. She took it. Finally, warm and real and shaking. And in that small room, with dusty floors and ticking clocks and too many years between us, we sat in silence, holding hands. Not mother and child, but two women, broken, bruised, and brave enough to show up anyway. Because love, real love, isn't proven in perfection. It's proven in the moment someone chooses to come back. The reconciliation with Delaney didn't happen in one night. No miracle tied everything up neatly in a bow. Healing is messier than that. It takes time. It leaves bruises. And sometimes it opens wounds before it closes them. But something changed that day. She came back. And a week later, she came again. With a photo album, some pastries I couldn't even eat anymore, and a quiet apology that didn't need words. We were sitting in the hospice garden on a cool spring morning when I finally said it. "There's something I need to tell you, baby." She looked up from the album, surprised by the weight in my voice. "It's about Vince. Your husband." Her face stiffened instantly. "I know you loved him. I know he was a good man to the children, to the church, to everyone. But Delaney, there was something he never told you. Something I've kept hidden for almost 20 years. She didn't speak. Just listened. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Back in the spring of '06, Vince came to me one morning after church. I was in the kitchen washing the communion trays. He looked awful. Pale, sweating like he hadn't slept in days. He told me he made a mistake. Delaney's eyes widened. What kind of mistake? He had borrowed money. A lot of money. From someone not legal. I don't know the full details. Gambling, maybe. He didn't say it outright. But he was scared. Said if anyone found out, it would ruin everything. Your marriage, the family name, even the kids' chances at college. I paused. The guilt of that day was still thick in my bones. He asked me to help. To take a second mortgage on my house so he could pay it off quietly. He begged me. Said it would be over in a month. He said he'd pay me back. Delaney's mouth opened slightly, her voice dry. "You took out a mortgage on your house?" "I did," I said, nodding slowly. "Didn't tell a soul. Not even Harold before he passed. I sold the house a year later when the debt wasn't paid back. That's when I moved into that tiny trailer park in Mason County. She covered her mouth with her hand. I thought you downsized because of retirement.
No, iwisparat.
I did it to protect you. And your children. Delaney's eyes filled with tears, her shoulders trembling. I never knew. Mama, why didn't you say anything? Because you were happy, I said. And because I knew if you found out, you would have never forgiven him. And it wasn't worth destroying your family over a mistake made by a man already carrying his own regret. She leaned forward, placing both her hands over mine. You lost everything for us. I didn't lose everything, I said. I gained peace. Even in that little trailer I had peace. You and the kids had your lives. You were safe. That's all that mattered to me. She wept then. Deep, heavy sobs, but not like before. These were tears of revelation. Of seeing someone fully. Of realizing that behind every sacrifice was a mother quietly enduring the cost. Mama, she whispered. I don't deserve you. I smiled. Even as my vision blurred from the weight of age and illness. Maybe not, I teased. But I'm yours anyway. And in that moment, I realized something. She hadn't held my hand when I was dying, but now she was holding my truth. And that meant more than any goodbye ever could. After Delaney left that evening, eyes swollen from crying, cheeks raw from kissing my forehead a dozen times, I sat in the quiet and thought about Ren, her daughter, my granddaughter. I hadn't seen Ren in over a year. She was always too busy, buried in school, or at camp. That's what Delaney would say when I asked. But I knew the truth. Ren didn't really know me. Not the real me. Not the woman who gave up a house to protect her future. Not the woman who held her mother through colic, heartbreak, and 1,000 forgotten nights. All she knew was a tired old woman in a nursing gown who forgot birthdays and dozed off during visits. And that broke my heart. So I sat down with shaky hands and wrote Ren a letter. Not because I expected a reply, but because I needed her to know who I was before time stole the rest of me. Dear Ren, you probably don't remember the last time we sat together. That's okay. I forget things too these days. I remember you had a purple bow in your hair and one sock falling down. You were coloring outside the lines and humming a song I didn't recognize. You reminded me so much of your mama when she was your age. Curious, bright, stubborn as summer sun. I want to tell you something I never got the chance to say out loud. I loved you from the moment I heard you cry. I wasn't in the delivery room. Your mom didn't want that. But I waited outside with a balloon that said, "It's a girl," and a knitted blanket I made from yarn I bought the day she told me she was pregnant. That blanket, it's in my hope chest. I saved it for you. You'll hear things, Ren. Maybe when I'm gone. Maybe from your mama, maybe not. You'll hear how we were distant. How there were years we didn't talk. How she didn't hold my hand when I was dying. But I want you to know, I never stopped holding hers. Even from a distance. Even in silence. Sometimes love is quiet. Sometimes it's invisible. But it never stops being real. You are part of a long, hard story, Ren. A story of strong women. Of mistakes and mended fences. Of sacrifice that may never be fully understood. One day when you're older, I hope you'll read this and feel not sadness but strength. I hope you'll know that you came from a line of women who loved so deeply, it sometimes broke them. And I hope you'll let that make you braver, not colder. Take care of your mama. She carries more than she says. And if you ever wonder who you are or where you came from, remember this. You came from hands that held on, even when they were empty. With all the love in the world. Grandma Mavis. I folded the letter slowly, pressed it into an envelope and wrote to Ren when she's ready on the front. Then I gave it to the nurse to place in my drawer, the one marked personal effects. Not for today. Not even for the funeral. But for a time when the silence might start to ache too loud, and a girl might need her grandmother's voice to guide her. I used to think motherhood meant giving everything away. Your time. Your body. Your dreams. Your voice. And for decades I did just that. I bent and broke myself to make Delaney's world easier. I was the cushion when she fell, the wall she screamed at, the roof that protected her. Even when she shut the doors in my face. But that morning after finishing Ren's letter, something inside me shifted. For the first time in my 78 years I thought, Mavis, what do you need? So I got dressed. Not in my hospital gown. Not in my robe and slippers. I wore the navy blue dress with the white stitching, Harold's favorite. I brushed my thinning hair. Put on blush. Even a dab of pink lipstick. My hands trembled, but I did it anyway. Then I asked the nurse to wheel me outside, not to the hospice garden this time, but down the hill to the little diner on the corner. I ordered a slice of peach pie and a cup of coffee. Sat by the window. Watched people go by. No one knew me. No one stopped. And it was peaceful. I thought about the first time I'd walked into this very diner with Harold, 49 years ago. I was pregnant with Delaney and so scared. He held my hand and said, "You're going to be the kind of mother songs are written about." I laughed at the memory. I don't think anyone wrote songs about me. But maybe that was okay. Maybe being unsung didn't mean being unimportant. Maybe I mattered in all the quiet, unseen ways. The waitress, a kind girl named Ramona who always called me Miss Mavis, refilled my coffee 3 times. When I went to pay, she said, "Someone already covered it." Said to tell you thanks for everything. I didn't ask who. I just smiled. Maybe it was Tyler. Maybe a stranger. Maybe it was the world's way of saying, "You've done enough, Mavis. Just sit and be." And for the first time in my life I did. I didn't think about regrets. I didn't think about the hand Delaney didn't hold. I thought about the one I still held, my own. That night, I returned to my bed feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Whole. Even if I didn't have much time left, I had this. A daughter trying. A granddaughter waiting. And a soul finally at peace with itself. Maybe motherhood isn't about what you give away. Maybe it's about what you choose to keep in the end. It happened on a Tuesday. Not dramatic or stormy. Just a soft golden afternoon where the sky looked brushed in watercolor, and the breeze smelled faintly of gardenias. I had been in and out of sleep all morning, my body growing lighter, my breath shallower. The nurses knew. I knew too. And strangely, I wasn't afraid. I'd said what needed saying, wrote what needed writing. I'd seen the face of my daughter soften with remorse and gratitude, and I'd tasted peach pie one last time. What more could a tired heart ask for? Delaney didn't come that day. She'd planned to. She even texted the hospice nurse. Said she'd stop by after Ren's school event. Something about a recital or an award ceremony. I don't blame her. Life doesn't pause just because someone's dying. But I felt the hours pass. 1, then 3, then 6. Still no footsteps. Still no hand in mine. And yet I wasn't angry anymore. I looked at the ceiling, the light casting a glow like the one in the delivery room the day she was born. I had held her then, her fingers impossibly small, her lungs screaming into the world. I had made a promise that day, to never let go, even if she let go of me. I closed my eyes and smiled. 2 days later, my memorial was held at Hope Valley Church. Small but sweet. A few hymns. A slideshow made by one of the nurses. Delaney sat in the front row, holding Ren close, her face unreadable. Afterward, she went through my things quietly, reverently. That's when she found the letter I left for her. Not the one for Ren. This one was just for Delaney. My dearest Laney, you didn't hold my hand when I died. And that's okay. You were holding something else. Your daughter. Your life. Your heart. I know now that love doesn't always look like we expect it to. Sometimes it shows up late. Sometimes it fumbles. But it still shows up. And you did. You came back to me when it mattered most. Not to fix what was broken, but to see what had been whole all along. I want you to know something important. Forgive you. And not just for missing my last day, but for all the days in between when you were simply surviving. I know now how hard it was for you. Caring so much and trying to be everything for everyone. You were doing your best. I hope someday when you're older you'll remember me not as the woman in the hospital bed, but as the one who danced barefoot in the kitchen, who knew all the verses to Landslide, and who loved you with a fierce, unrelenting grace. Promise me one thing, Laney. Hold Ren's hand when she forgets you, when she breaks your heart, when she comes back crying. Hold her hand the way I held yours, even when she doesn't reach back. That's where our power lies, not in being held but in the choice to love anyway. Always yours, Mama. They said Delaney cried for 3 hours. Not the loud, grieving kind but the quiet, collapsing kind. The The kind that shakes your soul and rewrites how you remember someone. Later that week, she visited the diner. Sat in the same booth I had, ordered the peach pie. Brought Ren with her. And as they sat there, Delaney pulled out the blanket I'd made long ago. The one she'd tucked away in a forgotten chest. Ren held it close and whispered, "It smells like Grandma." And for the first time, Delaney smiled through her tears. Maybe I wasn't there when she needed me. Or maybe I always was. Subscribe for more heartfelt stories like this one. Because sometimes, healing begins with a story. Comment below if this story touched you. Share it with someone who might need to be reminded.